Welcome back to the Nullified Tech channel on YouTube, where I've got the TNT takes for you on The Amazing Race 35, episode 2. That's right, I am your host, Chris. And with me today, on time, I should add as well, is Michelle. We got it right. Michelle, how
And
you
I'm
doing?
inside. I'm not being
And you're
attacked
inside.
by mosquitoes.
Yes, we're not letting you're not putting your skin at risk. There's no
Yes.
skin in the game today. How have you been? How have you been since the last time we spoke?
Good. Well, Aussie race started. So, yeah, covering that as well now. So, both races at the same time and watching Survivor. And I hear Survivor UK is coming out in a couple of weeks. So,
Yes,
full on.
madness.
That's a lot.
Absolute madness. And I was just talking to you prior to this because I started a new job this week. So that has kept me busy because I'm having to learn a whole new industry while still keeping up the podcasting. And I was saying, I think I need to do less shows in the coming weeks. And then you dropped the whole Survivor UK thing on me. I forgot about it.
There's too much on. I just can't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not work. At least I'm not working right now. I'm on holidays, but I start next week. Traders Canada. Oh, Andre, when does that start?
That starts, I think it's like very soon. It may even have started this week already. I do know that, luckily, I don't cover that here on the channel, Andre. That is why.
No, but we have to watch it.
I know. I've got my dedicated lieutenants in both Kahuna and Maki who are stepping up. Kahuna is doing the show with Michelle, with Verity, and also with Tom. And that's a great, I think, quadrant of you sitting together on that one there. I had a lot of fun watching the tail end of your preseason analysis, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you thought of the first episode. I haven't actually seen it yet. I have to at some stage backtrack and go watch it. So don't spoil in the live. So two episodes already.
Yeah,
you're killing me, Michelle.
So like Wednesday and Thursday.
I'm not going to have a weekend. I'm not going to be able to have a weekend.
But everything is an hour and a half now. So when it's condensed down to watching it on replay, it's only an hour. But seriously, that's Survivor, an Amazing Race, and our Amazing Race is all an hour and a half now. So it's so much more to watch.
Rough. That's going to be rough. Let's say hello to Andre Lee officially. And Andre Lee, thank you so much for the $5 New Zealand. You're definitely well appreciated here on the channel. You do drop quite a bit of tips, and I really appreciate it. It goes straight into the channel as we continue to grow it here, like Andre Lee says, the Amazing Race 35 contestants getting to keep the 5 buckets of pomelos and then them being sent to their home address would have been so much fun to watch. It would have been fun if Jocelyn and Victor got to the end and Phil was like, guess what? Your prize for this one is you get to keep the pomelos, Michelle. You get to take that home.
Imagine.
They would have been so amped.
Oh, no.
Danica,
you had one?
I haven't, and I'll talk to you about it just after this. Danica, I know you're not going to be listening to this right here on the live, but you're saying 5:30 a.m. is a bit early over there in the US. 7 a.m. I can do on a weekday, but earlier than that is pretty hard for you. I get it. At the moment, due to the very reason that I just mentioned, we've got time zone differences. We just had daylight savings last week. So everything that we normally do moves an hour earlier on your side now because of the daylight savings. I don't know why we have it, but I'm new to Australia, so I shouldn't be complaining. They may kick me out of the country for saying something like that. But I hope you do enjoy this when you watch it later on. It's still much appreciated. So leave your comments, get a notepad ready, and let us know what you agree and disagree with afterwards. We will read it, I promise you.
Yeah.
I haven't had pomelos. I was actually confused when they went into the grocery market, just with some, I don't even, there was jackfruit. I've never had jackfruit before. They've got special fruits there that I don't know.
Well, yeah, I've heard of a lot of those fruits because, jackfruit and durian and things like that. I've heard of them all before. Durian is the fruit that actually smells like poo. Apparently it's really delicious to eat if you can get past the stench of the smell. When they were going to get pomelos, I thought they were going to be tamarillos. I thought they were going to get. So I thought they were the smaller ones. I don't think I've ever seen anything that large in my supermarket, to get a pomelo. I don't want to try it now, though.
It looks really good. So, I mean, at some point, hopefully, I will get to go to Thailand. It's one of those places that I have put aside for a long time. I just so happen, we won't talk about what company, but I just so happen to work in the travel industry now. So who knows? I may at some point, I might be able to go there and experience it. I feel like it'll have to sort of come with the territory of what I'm doing. But let's start off at the beginning of the race here. We have, and I asked the question here, Michelle, to the live audience, and we'll definitely check in a little bit later on again, because I don't think we've got too many people here at the moment, but we do have a couple of votes that have sort of come in, 5 votes already. I asked, do you like the return to the different start times for teams based on their placement for each leg? Because if you remember when we were in the COVID period, we had them all starting to give it in blocks. I hated it previously.
Yes.
It was a necessity, just like chartered planes and things like that. You see Jocelyn, Robin, Corey, and Greg and John in the beginning of the race here. They're all starting sort of in the placement that they got there. And also the lead that they gained from the previous episode. What was your thoughts on that?
I love that. I love that. They're doing that in the Aussie one as well. So I love that they're all going at the times that they arrived, because it just, I don't know, it makes it more authentic, more old school, Amazing Race.
Yeah, I agree. I'm a big fan of that. To me, some people say that the competitiveness is taken out of it because, people can build up a lead. I actually want decisions to have consequences. If you're taking a risk, if you're making a risky move, which I'm going to have some hot takes on teams that I think could look good right now, but there is a potential for them to make some mistakes in the future. And we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But I like the fact that if you're making a mistake, it's going to count against you, and that there is going to be consequences for that. Personally, Dino here says, I have jackfruit as part of lunch.
Nice.
There you go. Dino, whereabouts are you situated? Where do you get jackfruit? It'd be interesting to know if you're somewhere in one of those Asian countries or if they, import it, I guess.
That surname looks Asian, actually.
It does.
Oh,
Serena says, I wish they had to do an eating challenge instead of doing a grocery shopping, but apparently it tastes good, you said.
Yeah, apparently I haven't had it, but apparently it tastes good, but it just smells absolutely disgusting.
There you go, Jakarta, Indonesia. Right? Nice. So it's definitely something that is sort of towards that region that you get those fruits, and it's always interesting to see what you get in one part of the world is so different from another part of the world as well. Even with globalization, better ways of doing exporting and importing these days. I don't think we get jackfruit here. I haven't seen it unless I'm wrong. Michelle,
I've seen it in Sydney. It's really it's really spiky. Yeah.
Right.
But it might be in the Asian supermarkets more than just like your big chains,
Yeah. That explains it, because obviously this leg was made for Jocelyn and Victor. Like, again.
My goodness, yes.
Yeah, who did they like? I don't know how this race was sort of, how they decided what leg is going to be where, but it couldn't have been a better start for the both of them, because they had 2 legs in a country where one of them understands the language pretty well, speaks it. There's a small difference in dialect, but it's probably, like we've spoken about this in the past, I speak Afrikaans, which is a form of Dutch. Dutch people call it kitchen Dutch. So if I was to go to the Netherlands, and if we ever did a leg together, Michelle, that would be where I would have to carry, because I would understand a lot of the language. I would understand, I'd say probably about 80% of what they're saying. And there'll be like certain words that would sound a bit strange and old school to me, but I'm assuming that's what it's like for someone like Victor. So it just gave them such a leg up, because no one else had that advantage going into this league.
And I saw that someone actually was having a go at them having the ability to speak the language. And is it fair, that one team can and the others can't? Well, sorry, it is fair. If you're intelligent enough to know several languages, good on you. I mean, you can't penalize someone just because they know the language. How many times has the American race gone out and they can speak Spanish? Millions of times, because that's what they learn that in school over there. They learn a lot of Spanish in school. I don't know a word of Spanish except for maybe 1 to 10 that I learned on Dora the Explorer. It's an advantage, and I don't think it's penalizing anybody else. But if you have it and you know it, good on you.
And it's not going to be an advantage for the whole race. It's I'm assuming they're not going to stay there. It's the Amazing Race for a reason. They go to other parts of the world where that's going to become less of a thing. But I do think Jocelyn and Victor, they do have a lot of things that stand out for me that make them a very strong team this season. Obviously, navigation, they're good at that. They have to go to Nagum Patong. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but in that area, there's over 40,000 temples. And
Yes.
when they mentioned that, Michelle, I knew 40,000 temples, someone's going to get it wrong. Like, I mean, what's the chances that all of the teams, all 12 of them, are going to go right to the right place? And Greg and John, they did mess up a little bit here in the beginning because they do end up going to the wrong place.
Yes, they did. Yeah, there's so many temples over there. They're literally on every street corner. They're just everywhere. And, you know, the names are very similar. There might just be one word in difference. So, yeah, it can be tricky. What I actually, coming back to what you said about Jocelyn and Victor, I loved what he said. He said, when he came into the race, he said, we're not going to be the strongest. We're not going to be the fastest, but with age comes wisdom. And this is what I've always said to everybody on the race. If there is a young team, a young male team, yeah, they do really well. But if there's an older male team, they're the ones who do well because they've got the wisdom, they've got the knowledge, they've got the worldly smarts that younger people don't always have. And this is what I tell people all the time. They say to me, oh, I wouldn't be any good on the race. I can't run. I can't do this. I'm not strong. And I'm like, the race isn't just that. It's a lot of other things. And you don't have to be totally fit to be on the race.
They don't run all that often anymore. Like,
No.
I guess a couple of seasons ago, we were making fun of every single leg being they had to go up like 100 flights of stairs to get to the pit stop. But you don't see them like physically. I don't feel like running all that much. And a lot of the challenges, like you said, does come down to attention to detail. We even saw it on this episode here, which I've got a lot of thoughts on that. And you know, again, Victor talking about wisdom, you know, that comes with age. Greg and John is one of those teams for me personally. While we're on them making a mistake here, going to the wrong temple, they nearly make a second mistake in this league. So they're working twice as hard as everybody else because they're going from third to fifth or sixth, and then they have to work their way back into third, which they do manage throughout the duration of this league. But they almost gave up even on the Scoop It Up challenge. Before they even gave it a go, they were almost willing to go somewhere else, which I thought, I love both of them. They've got great energy, but it feels like they're one mistake away from making a disastrous move potentially on the race in the future, especially when we get down to like a final six situation where that type of move could still get you eliminated from the game.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's that impatience.
Well, it's anything that can trip you up. It just depends. I mean, you saw them at the Lotus Challenge. Quite a few of them weren't. There was no attention to detail with some of them. You could see them making it, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, what's going on there? When they first got there, I looked at the posy that she'd made, and I was thinking, oh God, this is tough. This is hard. Look at it. It's so beautiful. It's so neat. It's so symmetrical. And then I'm watching them just go in and grab any lotus off any plant anywhere close to them. And I'm thinking, no one's really caring what they're doing here.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely. Let's have a look at a couple of comments here coming in. We've got Andrew Lee saying Julian Garrett also deployment anniversary, right? We've got Andrew saying should have the Amazing Race season where the contestants are not very good at reading maps.
Well, not many
that would be funny.
I'm good at reading maps.
That would be funny. That would be funny. Andrea Lee says, Chris and Michelle, have you ever went into the wrong temple, church, or mosque? Do you have any stories there for us, Michelle? I've never gone into the wrong one.
I've been into temples in Bali and in Thailand, but, you know, someone tends to take you there. So I don't walk into the wrong temple. And the ones that are in Thailand tend to be the ones that are very well visited. So there's a lot of people there. So I have never gone into the wrong one. No.
He also says here, due to the past experience in floral arrangements and making sarma and dolmas, getting the leaves right will be my weak spot, and would have been mine as well. It definitely was for a lot of people out there. I was impressed by the speed that Jocelyn was working at, but so many emotions went through my head when Jocelyn was doing this challenge, right? Because she knows that Victor's family is watching. In the Asian culture, there's this whole thing about respect, and you know, you need to show respect and honor your elders and the family and things like that, which a lot of us Westerners, we don't get it. We're like, mom and dad, take it or leave it. I am who I am. We're a lot more
Yes.
free spirited. I felt bad for Jocelyn when she was like, I'm going to be great at this. I'm going to kill it because of Victor's background. And then she had like 13 attempts or something before she got it right. It was a lot of
It
attempts.
was really stressful for her. I mean, it was stressful for all of them, but I think more for her in that she felt like she had something to prove as well. I did like that the judge told them what they'd done wrong, although some of the racers couldn't understand what she was trying to say to them. But it's better than saying no and then coming back and having to do it like 50 times because they didn't know what exactly they'd done wrong. So
Yeah.
I know some people didn't like that because usually in something like that, they're not told what they've done wrong and they just have to keep doing it. But I think they would have been there all day.
Yeah, I noticed that, and I also like the fact that there were a couple of teams that were working smarter, not harder on this challenge. So one of them being Greg. He specifically, when he came in at fifth, he did end up overtaking, I think, a few teams to get the lead
Yes.
back. And one of the things he did, and I think that's the whole computer scientist background that comes into play, where he talked about we're good at solving problems, but he was sort of paying attention to each person going up. Every time they were told, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong, he would take a mental note of that and be like, okay, I need to make sure I've got the leaves 100% right. I need to make sure that I've got the right pattern in there as well. I thought that was quite good. And again, for future racers out there that want to race, sometimes you got to learn from other people's mistakes out there, just like in life. You don't have to make all the mistakes yourself. Work smarter, not harder.
Well, that's correct in wanting to get it to a challenge, not first. We've seen that time and time again. You don't really want to be first because you're the guinea pig. You're the one trying things out. And if you get there second or third, then you can see what other people are doing. You can actually copy what they're doing and hopefully get out of there at the same time. And so being first isn't always the best.
No, but there was a very big advantage in this challenge for people being first. Ian pointed it out when he came in later on, where he said all of the flowers or the everything close to us were taken. So he had to go further out into the water every single time to do it. So that would have made it a little bit harder on teams getting there later. But it did seem to me like you caught on to one thing that I noticed as well, and that's them helping a little bit and giving guidance in regards to what's wrong, which we never see. And then secondly, it felt to me towards the end that they weren't going out anymore. I don't know if they ran out of things to do out there, because it seemed like they were sitting like immediately when they're wrong. Some of the contestants like Steve just stayed there and continued working on. Did you notice that?
And undid them and just started again. Yeah, I think so. When they were going back out to get more, I was actually worried about them depleting the crop at that place.
And I think they did.
Because they don't grow that fast, and the crop's gone. And I'm thinking, why aren't they just using what they already have in front of them if they can find, 10 that are relatively the same and not blooming? Maybe if they went out to get ones that weren't blooming, some of them had some that are already started. So I know they must have gone out for more, but I loved your favorite team when she was out there.
Let's give them a shout out. Team Pink and the pink taxi this whole round, Michelle. It was meant to be. It was destiny. Did you see that beautiful pink taxi they were in?
Yeah, I did.
That was amazing.
I thought it was funny when she was screaming out there. I couldn't tell what she was saying, but it made me laugh.
Milena.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you had Milena out there. She was hilarious as always. But listen, I feel like I need Andrea and Milena on like my speed dial in the mornings before I go to work, just to like ramp me up, get me in like that positive mind frame, before I even get in there. Who needs Tony Robbins if you've got Andrea and Milena on the call?
But I was scared for you. I thought, they can't go out. Chris loves them too much.
They've just got that energy. There's, some people have got the it factor, and they've got the it factor. Like they're like, if I was like, who would I like to hang out with? And there's another team that popped this episode as well, and I really enjoyed, and we'll talk about that as well, because it's still early days. But Andrea and Milena, I don't know if they've got a win in them, but just from a character standpoint, I'm really enjoying them so far. They were very positive throughout this whole episode as well, even though they're sort of towards the end of the whole thing. But another team here that was really hilarious was Morgan and Lena. We
Oh,
do have
God.
them coming into this now. Obviously, they've got the express pass. They want to hold onto that bad boy or bad baby as long as they can before they have to play it. But they can only play it up until the 4th leg, which is interesting to know. I don't know if that was sort of mentioned in the previous episode, but Lena is really worried about crocodiles out there when she's going
I
into it as
know.
well.
I'm thinking you're in Thailand, and then there's that giant lizard there, which
Yes.
I thought, yeah, it's actually the lizard sort of area, um, rather than crocodiles. That's so funny.
There was a few people that were like really. Another really funny moment on this challenge was a few of the teams when things were going wrong for them. They're like, "Oh, I'm so glad I'm doing this part of it because it must be so stressful for those that are waiting on the other side." And meantime,
Mm,
they're feeding the fishes, having like the best time.
yeah,
I thought the editing was magic for that. Like
yeah,
those are the little moments that we're now getting with the 90-minute episodes that we would not
mm,
have gotten in the classic episodes.
yeah, exactly. There's no time for that sort of the filler stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, Jonathan here has got a very important question for you, Michelle. I'm not even going to attempt to answer that because I do not know the answer. I don't retain information like that. But Jonathan asks, have we ever had a leg where only 2 teams swap places?
I don't. Mm. Gosh,
It'd
that'd be
probably
a
be,
Logan question. That would be a Logan or a Michael question. I actually don't know. It would
yeah.
be very, very rare if it was only 2 teams.
I feel like it'd be very rare as well. But I mean, there's been 35 seasons and a lot of
Yeah,
different teams in that time and a lot of
exactly.
different legs as well. So it's anybody
Mm.
that can remember that off the top of their head, call me, impressed. If that is the
Yeah,
case, I don't
Logan,
know.
honestly. Logan
Yeah.
came on at the end of the podcast I did with Kahuna, the Aussie one, and
Yes.
we asked a pointed question, and I said, "Oh, Logan could tell you the the season and the episode," and lo and behold, he told us a season and an episode for something, and I'm like, "There you go."
Impressive.
His retention
Impressive.
ridiculous.
Andrelia says waist deep, walking in sludgy, bottom harder than editing made it to be. Wonder how itchy all the contestants got afterwards from all the insect bites and stuff in the water. There's quite a few things that they ended up running into in that water. And it was funny. I was finding it hilarious that in the previous podcast that we did, you actually said, Michelle, the last thing you would want to do is get in that water. And then this episode, they get them all in the water.
I know. It's great. It's
Yeah.
great. I mean, and you know what? You'll get some flashbacks of this podcast when you watch the Aussie race, the next 2 episodes from getting in water. Yes.
All right.
It's
That
fun.
all something to look forward to then for me there as well. Let me see. Was there anything else that stood out sort of here in the beginning part of it before we
With
start heading
with
over?
that one, no. No, that was
I think
everything.
the only other thing that was interesting as they were leaving here, big mistake made by Jill and Garrett to leave their fanny pack
Mm.
behind. And
But why do people keep doing this? It's not hard. Mind you, look, I think it'd be harder for a woman to do it than a man because a woman's always looking around for everything they've left, children, bags, anything.
mm,
Um, yeah, it's
yeah.
usually just because they're rushing so fast, but that's the main part because that's usually got their passports and things in it, unless the other person carries passports. I know on some races, one person is in charge of carrying the passports, not because production's told them, just because they've decided between them that that person's going to carry everything important. Hopefully, anyone doesn't lose their passports because that's like the end of the race for them.
I am pedantic when it comes to keeping my passport on me when I travel. Like I really know, like this is my lifeline. This is how I'm getting out of the country again.
Mm.
So I feel like with passports and things, I would be pretty good. But I do lose like my phone, my keys, things like that all the time.
Really?
And at home, I'll be like, "Where did I put my phone again? Where did I put my keys again?" Like I'm terrible with that. But with a passport, I reckon I'd be really onto it. I'd be so paranoid that that's going to be the thing that'll end my race. So I agree with you. It was weird to see that play out here, but I don't feel like I could be wrong. I don't know if Julian Garrett is like the biggest Amazing Race fans if they've seen it play out before.
Yeah, maybe not. At least they got it back and they didn't really lose much time.
Well, one of them didn't. They were the 2 guys that became friends in the army, right? And then one got sent home earlier, and he watched
Yeah.
or they watched a lot of the Amazing Race. So I don't know. It's probably an honest mistake to make. The other person we probably should touch on as well on this part of it was Ashley. We had Todd sort of forcing Ashley to go out there, Team Orange, to
Oh,
go and do
yes.
this because he wanted her to gain some confidence and get one of these roadblocks under her belt sooner rather than later, which I think is a good strategy. He did the first one, so get her immediately used to it. Some teams kind of hide one of the two for quite a long time, and then you get forced into a situation where you've got to rely on one person going into the end game. So getting that out of the way, I think, was a good strategy, but Ashley had a really bad time out there.
Yes, I know. Yeah. But I think she was the better person to do the actual challenge, because I'm not having a go at guys, but a lot of the time women are very good at flower arranging and making sure things look lovely and perfect. And I think out of those two, she was probably the better one to do the challenge.
Yeah, well, shout out to Jeremy from the two brothers, Liam and Jeremy, and Team Green. He did it the fastest out of all of them. I think he only did had four teams.
But he was the one that was looking at everybody, wasn't he? Was he looking at everybody?
No, he came really late, but him and Ian were both impressive. I think they were the two fastest from what we saw. Ian, part of the gay couple, Joe and Ian, who engaged, he ended up doing it in 5 attempts, and then Jeremy was not far behind him, doing it in 4 attempts. And I feel like that's what kept those teams in the race at the later stages, because they were so far behind. But yeah, shout out to both of them. The other teams who really struggled, and I kind of felt like Steve, him and his daughter Annalie being out there, he had a really difficult time. And to me, when they said to him go, it still didn't look right to me. I was like, I feel like they're just like lowering the bar at this point and letting the poor guy go.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Well, they got through it.
They got through it. They got through it in the end. And obviously Robin and Chelsea towards the end there as well. Andrea and Milena, like we said, they were not doing good. And then Elizabeth and Ileana had a really tough time out there as well. But they have to go to the next part, which is to an elephant and Wei Rai King. And they had to go 3 times underneath it and then do like an offering. Just one of those fun challenges on the Amazing Race. Why not?
Yeah. It's better than actually going somewhere and getting your clue when you get there. At least they had to do some little thing. It was better than just picking up something. It was cute.
Yeah. Jonathan's still talking about the previous one. He had felt like they weren't told everything at the first and they only learned bits and pieces through failing. I think it just comes down to that attention to detail for those kind of challenges where you just take your time, especially if you're going to be doing it 16 times. I think it'd be worth it just to really be pedantic before you go get a check the first time and not have to go back out there again. Andrew says I would have jumped in and tried to catch the catfish.
Oh my gosh, no. They didn't do that.
No,
that wasn't. I was trying to think. They had to catch fish in an Aussie race, not the last one, maybe the one before. And that was hard enough for them, trying to catch a normal fish, let alone a catfish that can take off half your arm. Well, I'm exaggerating, but yeah.
So they do go to the elephant, and pretty much that was just a really quick check-in to find out what their detour was going to be. And there were 2 choices here: stock up or scoop up. Now, Michelle, I like to ask this question. Which one would you have done and why?
See, that would have been hard because you see stock up so many times and you see there's a problem with the language, being able to buy these things. And if it's a big market, it's an absolute nightmare. Now, that market didn't look bad, but because I can't see the market, I would have probably done scoop up.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I think that a lot of the times being able to just get through a challenge, even if it's physical, if you can just, and obviously for me, I don't mind the physical stuff. I would have just gotten in there and pushed through, just get the pomelos into the boat. Would have sounded a lot more simple. It would be, you're going to have to work up a sweat. And a lot of the fit young guys, they were out of breath. Like I looked at Liam and Jeremy, Joe and Ian, they're both 2 fit guy teams, and they were huffing and puffing by the end of this. So hats off to Steve, who I thought at one point there they were going to medically evacuate him because he couldn't get out of the boat afterwards.
Yeah, that was hilarious. But that's just trying to move out of a boat and not fall in, and trying actually to get back up onto a dock is actually quite a hard thing to do. And if you've never done it, it's a bit scary when you try and do it. You don't want to fall in. So I can understand.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, if you've got a teammate like John in your team, then you're going to fall in the water at some point, because he managed to get Greg in the water by jumping out of the boat. That was a fun scene. And who
Yeah.
was the team who ended up sinking while they were out there? And they're
Oh
like,
my
save
God.
the
Who was
Pomelos. And like,
that?
I feel like it was one of the girl teams. It may have
It,
been
no, it was a
like
girl
maybe,
and a guy.
was
Who
it?
was it? Oh my God, they just kept going down. He was at the back, the girl was at the front. She said, "We're going down." Who
The only
was it?
team that the only team I can think of is Steve and
Annalie, was
Annalie.
it?
Must have been. Someone in the chat will know. Lovable Nikki, welcome to the live. We're a
Hi,
little bit
Nikki.
earlier. We're a little bit earlier than usual because we had
Yeah.
daylight savings time here, so we're an hour earlier on all of our time frames. But great to have you here. Make sure to go and listen to the start of this again if you want to. We spoke a lot about the first bit of the episode already, but Jonathan Gray says that was
Father
the
and
father
daughter,
and the
yeah.
daughter.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. The phonetic stuff made the detour seem better, and that definitely does help because in the past sometimes they didn't have that, and they had to
but
like
the
translate.
who at the end was showing them the piece of paper.
That
Like
annoyed
they're
me.
in Thailand, they must be able to see the signs. All the writing is not in any sort of English alphabetic letters. It's all these unusual characters. Why the hell are they showing them the piece of paper? Like,
Well, they apparently weren't allowed to. Todd and Ashley earlier in that detour said they're only allowed to read it out to them. They're not allowed to show it to them. But we had teams doing that. We had Andrea and Milena and Elizabeth and Ileana both doing it. But I think the reason that probably because some people out online were upset about the fact that they didn't get penalized for that at the pit stop. And maybe Robin and Chelsea could still feel hard done by it because they did end up in last place in 11th with Andrea and Milena ending in 10th. But Elizabeth and Ileana, who ultimately got eliminated by the end of this, they were also the culprits of it. So it wouldn't have changed probably the outcome of the race, if that makes sense. But it was even hard for the locals to understand what they were trying to get across when they were showing it to them. So it didn't really help. But I do have to give a shout out here to Todd and Ashley for choosing this specific part of the detour. I think after Ashley got so frazzled with what she was doing, this was the perfect detour for her to do because Todd had so much, Todd just went up in my estimation so much. He had so much fun out there, joking around with the locals, really embracing the culture. And I feel like Ashley needed that at that point because she was kind of frazzled coming back from that challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. Poor thing. She just, I mean, it's hard. I mean, I don't know what the weather was like. Thailand's always been hot when I'm there, but I know it's not hot year round. I can't remember when they raced. Because this is the season that was filmed before. It's been no, it wasn't. This was filmed most recent, and there's a season before. I'm so confused. I hope they show the season before. I've heard that they're going to not show it on the normal CBS channel. They're going to show it on a streaming channel.
What, the season before this one?
Yes.
That's interesting. Why do you think that would be? Because obviously Paramount Plus is getting a lot of shows now. Maybe because for me personally, when they brought this season forward, which was supposed to be season 36 originally, right? I thought it was just based on the fact that they knew going into the season they were getting 90 minutes, so they could film differently and plan things out differently for it to make sense in a 90-minute format. So if they do go directly to a streaming platform, that kind of makes it feel like maybe they're thinking they're going to get another 90-minute block in the next one.
I'm quite happy for them to put two seasons in again, like they used to in the old days. Put 2 seasons in next year. I'd be happy with that. I'm sure the fan base would be happy with that too. I mean, do what Survivor does. Bring it back for just 1 year.
Yeah. No,
but listen, anyway, I don't know how I got off track.
Andrew Lee says here he would have done stock up because of his hospo retail and supermarket background, so that would have made sense. And obviously another team with a lot of supermarket background was Jocelyn and Victor, who not only could speak the language, but it was like kind of just another day in the office for them out there.
Yeah, very easy for them. Just like the words rolling off the tongue.
they even recognized most of the ingredients because they have it in their store. So you can't
Yeah.
get it any more tailor-made for you. Love
No.
Nikki says she just got the notification. Oh no. Yeah, we did go live a little bit earlier than expected as well. So not ideal, but like I said, if you do want to catch up, definitely there. I think we spoke a little bit about what happened there in the beginning. There's some good stuff in there. Andrew says, I assumed that those two teams would have time penalty for showing a list and got speaking of phonetically only. So shocked they did not get it. I'm the same as you. I picked that up immediately, and I did see some people online were not too happy about that, Michelle.
Maybe, I mean, we don't know if they did get a time penalty. Maybe they didn't show it because it didn't change the order.
Yeah.
It's been a while since time penalties, but guess what? Nikki, are you watching the Aussie season?
Oh, don't spoil.
Yes.
Don't spoil. I
No,
still need to
I'm
go
not
watch
going
it.
to. That's all I'm saying.
Right. Andrew saying waiting for season where the second to last team is 12 to 24 hours behind the third to last team and has to start 12 to 24 hours behind the third to last team.
I don't think they're never gonna do that again. It's too hard.
Right. They've just finished editing the OG 35, I think. All right.
Okay.
That's interesting to know. So let's see what else sort of happened on this one that was really good. A lot of fun, like I said, there by Todd and Ashley. I did like that Jocelyn and Victor really took in a lot of their surroundings while they were there as well, because a lot of the times the teams that are at the front, they don't seem to do it. They're more game focused, and the teams who do that, they end up falling behind and not doing well overall. I did like the little move by Liam and Jeremy, the two brothers in green with the long locks, I should say.
Yes.
Some great hair on the show there.
Oh,
They they had some really good strategy, right? Because they were trying to be quiet when they got to certain segments or certain of those kennels that had like a lot of the pomelos in it. So that was cool to see a little bit of strategy hitting the game as well.
Yeah, because you don't see a lot of that. Well, it's unless no one does it. But yeah, it's great. Or even just at the market, someone was hiding stuff away from somebody else when they said they found something in a certain stall. That was good as well.
Livable Nikki, never seen any other than The Amazing Race. I've seen one of the seasons. I'm similar to Nikki. I haven't seen many of them. I've seen one of the seasons for Australian Amazing Race, and I've seen I think one for Canada, but I didn't like Canada back then. It was like one of the first two seasons because it was all just in Canada. They didn't actually travel globally, which I found less interesting personally. Do they still only travel in Canada?
They still only travel in Canada now. They used to go out. They used to go and do 2 different places and then they come back, but now it's just only Canada. What season of the Australian race have you watched?
I feel like it was the one before. It was like I've seen actually it was the first one that Bo did. I watched that one, and I watched one where there were New Zealand teams versus Australian teams going up against each other prior to.
That's actually not a bad season. That was
a fun season.
That was our 3rd season. But you have to watch the 2nd season. That is the season that's won the International Emmy Award.
Right. Okay.
Filmed back in 2011, I think, and it was on in 2012. Yeah, you've got to go and watch that. I mean, it's just an amazing season.
Kahuna, the look on Phil's face when Bo does some of his Bo-like things. I bet you he would be raising his eyebrows.
You know what? Phil has lived in Australia, so he knows Aussies, and New Zealanders are not too dissimilar. So he'd probably take it on the chin and think, "Oh God, I'm back with the Aussies." That's all.
It would be a funny crossover to see, and I love the idea of a crossover as well. Sandy says, "I just started The Amazing Race Australia 6, so hectic. I love it. I've seen The Amazing Race New Zealand versus Australia. They should do another season of it." Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I agree. That's fun because there's always the frenemy rivalry between Australia and New Zealand that I think will get some eyeballs on it. See how they would do. But I did have another thing I wanted to bring. The other thing that for me this whole episode really stood out was Rob and Corey, obviously as a duo. It's amazing how when Rob communicates and he does all of his sign language, how the camera, it really gives you that feeling for what it must be like to be out there with him because it's so silent. and they let it be silent like that. I don't remember, because we've had people on the show before that were deaf, but I don't remember seeing it like
I
that.
don't. Yeah, I don't recall when Margie and Luke were on. Luke, you're obviously
Yes,
talking about Luke,
Luke.
who's deaf.
Yes,
I don't recall there being such a long, sort of like monologue that he did, and there was no other sound. I don't recall that at all. Whereas they let that be totally quiet, and you're just like reading all the subtitles. And I thought, yeah, that's good, but yeah, it really takes you into the world that they're racing in.
yeah, definitely. I really think that sort of brings you in. And for me personally, I don't know how other people are finding it. I'm actually finding myself like really paying attention to the team because of it. And they've got such a fun dynamic between the two of them. And Rob is such a superstar. Like, I mean, he's done both of the roadblocks at this stage. So obviously, we still have to see what Corey's got, and if Corey can perform, right?
I'm wondering, did Phil know sign language back when Luke did it? I don't recall.
I don't recall either. So I feel like he's put in extra effort coming into the season. And I feel like I feel like there is a difference between Luke and Rob, because Rob to me comes across like he doesn't really read lips. I could be wrong here, where I feel like they have to put extra effort in, and that's why they've got an interpreter there or someone that can do the sign language, because I'm pretty sure Luke could read lips, and that's maybe a little bit of the difference, because I remember Phil speaking slower and clearer whenever they used to get to the pit stops.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and watch an ep or two and see how it panned out. I mean, they were in it twice, weren't they? Did they do All Stars as well?
They did. Yeah, they did go
Yes.
twice.
So they've
I
done it
liked them more the first time. I didn't like them the second time as much. They
Yeah,
seemed
he got a
more
bit more
catty.
angry the second time, yeah.
Yeah,
I know.
way more catty
Well,
on that
you had
second.
that whole fight thing happening, didn't you?
Yeah, which I feel like they were in the wrong there as well. But Jonathan and Gray says, I would also like to congratulate Robin and Chelsea on being the first team to finish 11th twice.
Yes. Yeah,
In the
that's
history of
never
the show.
happened before. The 11th team just goes out.
Yeah, so
Correct.
it's going to be interesting to see if we can see Robin and Chelsea or Andrea and Milena work their way out of that bottom spot. It's not looking good for them at this stage, because I do feel like, listen, Andrea, Melania, like I said, they're my soul sisters. Like, if I could give them a call in the morning to get me ready for the day, I would. They would put me in such a positive mood, but it's not been happening for them. We've got to see something we haven't seen. And then Robin and Chelsea, they've been struggling as well. Jill and Garrett, they're not far ahead, but there is a couple of teams ahead of them that I think are real competitors this season.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think it's pretty stacked up at the top.
Yeah. So what did we have here in the end? We ended up getting Victor and Jocelyn easily getting into first. They both win $2,000, which is always nice. A little bit of extra motivation. We've got Rob and Corey in second place. No big surprises there. The father and son team doing extremely well. Greg and John, what's your thoughts on them? Do you think I'm on the money when I'm saying that even though they're doing really good now, there is potential for risk in the future? They seem like they're maybe like...
Yes, definitely. Definitely. I mean, I thought Joel and Garrett would be further up, and I was quite sad when they came in so low, because, I love those two.
Yeah, they're a fun duo. There's something about them that kind of almost reminds me of the Cowboys. Remember, like back in the day?
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something there that like gives me that vibe, but they're not performing like them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're quite congenial. Same sort of mannerisms in that friendly, knockabout, any type of guy sort of people.
Andrew Lee here bringing something up, which it's been a little bit of a pet peeve of mine, but 2 episodes in, no screaming arguments and fighting so far. So what do we think about that, Michelle? Because it's great to have likable people on the show, but it's also
I
good to have a villain sometimes, right?
There's no arguments. I'm fine. You know what? There's a season where there's one team who is just so hated, and it just takes away from the whole season because it's all focused on them, which I don't like. So I'm glad that that's not happening. I don't mind if things, if there's niggly fights, but I don't want a major thing that just upsets the whole season.
Yeah. Sandy says, to be honest, this episode is kind of meh for me, just very straightforward. I kind of agree. Like, there wasn't anything spectacular happening. I'm hoping that they're saving the budget for one of the other legs and we're going to see something a little bit more exciting. I don't know if maybe with the longer episodes, like, I mean, how many drone shots could you do of that first sort of, challenge that they were on without it becoming repetitive after a while? So that didn't help. Maybe, like I've said before, it'd be great to see what they do in between legs. Like, I would love to see a little bit of teams and like mingling at the pit stop afterwards, a little of a behind the scenes.
Don't get that anymore.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
yeah. No socializing. Keep people apart. Like, they only meet each other after the race is over, and in between legs when they're feeding the fish. That's when they get to have those conversations.
The viewers out there and yourself would be interested to know that this the current Australian celebrity season is run a little bit differently, and you'll see that when you watch. There is a little bit of mingling and
great.
things like that. So yeah, wait till you have a look.
Yeah, Kuna says, I've only just now realized how hard it is to watch 2 concurrent seasons. I keep getting AU in my head. Yep.
Yeah.
That will happen. We were talking about that beforehand, actually, before going live. But I did want to continue to talk about some of the teams here in the placement. We've got Morgan and Lena. They're in 4th place. They're very solid, Michelle. I'm liking them so far. They've got the express pass. What's your thoughts on them?
Yep, they're good. They're a good team. I think they'll stay up the top. Definitely.
I love the dynamic between them as well. Morgan being the one that sort of pushes Lena on a little bit. I think that's going to be interesting to continue to watch throughout the season as they continue. Todd and Ashley went up quite a lot in my estimate this week. I liked them last week, but I thought there was potential for them to blow up. But how supportive Todd was with Ashley this week really showed me that's not going to happen, because even when she came back in 6th place after that first challenge, he's like, you did it. Who cares? Let's go. Like, he was not blowing up
did he also say you look really sexy?
Yes.
He was that one, and I'm looking at it going, oh, he's a keeper, because you look like rubbish.
Yeah, he knew exactly what to tell her at that point to keep her moving. So good job on Todd there. Stephen Annalee seems to be a fun father-daughter team this season. I've got a feeling like we're going to see a lot from Annalee this season, because, she was pulling a weight in that physical challenge when they were doing the challenge where they had to get all of the fruit and they had to put it in the baskets. Like, she was the one who did all the physical moving and carrying.
You know why, though? She's a country girl.
Yeah.
And I know in Australia, I don't know about in America, but in Australia, the country girls, they get in there, they do things. They're not princesses. They just get on with what they have to, accomplish. And she seems like that sort of a girl.
Yeah. Joe and Ian, the jury's still out on them. They like, I mean, they're like the classical team. When you look at them, you're like, they're fit, look charismatic, good looking. Like, you just think that they're going to be good. And it hasn't happened.
Something's not connecting there.
Liam and Jeremy, I think, are two. If I had to put my money on a team that are really low right now that can climb the ranks, I'll have my money on Liam and Jeremy. I think that they, again, just seeing how quickly they breeze through that first challenge, 4 attempts for Jeremy to get through that, it shows that the attention to detail is there, which is going to be important in a lot of challenges for the rest of the season. So I would say, if there is a team that I would say probably a blue chip stock right now, if you were in the stock market, you could put a little bit of money into Liam and Jeremy. There's potential there.
Yeah, and they're a fun team. They get on really well. They communicate well. So that always helps.
I love the support between the two brothers. Like, even in the previous episode when they were talking about how when they were younger, I forgot which one was older, the older brother was always there for the younger one. And now the roles are kind of changing more into like a friendship as they get older. Because I can relate to that with my brother, a similar type of relationship. So I love the fact that they're there for each other and they seem really positive and like they will encourage each other throughout the season. They don't look like things are going to stress them out. I mean, because they're right at the bottom right now, we're not seeing them unravel. So when you start at the bottom like that, you can only go up, if you can get a couple of good legs behind you. Jill and Garrett, we spoke about them a little bit. It would be great to see them lift their game. They look like they could be fun. Obviously, we know my thoughts on Andrea and Milena. I love them. Team Pink. Till the death. That's all I'm gonna say. Like, I'm gonna ride with my girls. I'm gonna ride with my girls this season, Michelle. And guess what? Lulu and Lala was Team Pink as well.
I
A team
know.
pink
That's what I
thing.
was thinking just now. You have an affinity with pink teams.
And the pink taxi that they had. I hope they get a pink taxi every league now. That's amazing
Yeah.
when they got that. And then Robin and Chelsea, like Robin's story is just crazy from the first week, the things that she's gone through.
Hmm.
I kind of want to root for them and just hope that they do well. And then this week,
Yeah.
how was it Chelsea that was bullied by Robin and her group when they were younger and then they became
Yes.
friends? It's a very
Yes.
interesting start to their friendship.
Very, very. I mean, I didn't want either of the bottom two teams to go out because I thought they had really good stories. So I didn't, it was sad when they were both down there. I wouldn't have minded one of the guy teams going out, although, they're great races, but they don't have as much of a meaty story as these two teams. So yeah, I was a bit sad when Elizabeth and Ileana are at the bottom, but then I'm like, God, Robin and Chelsea could be out next week, which would be even worse.
Yeah. Question there, lovable Nikki has for us is if you have an express pass and you are U-turned, can you use the express pass? I believe you can.
Yeah, I think you can.
Yeah. So that would effectively be you would have just had to do one challenge, and there's going to be a compulsory one coming up at some point, right?
Yes.
Which is going to
Exciting.
be interesting to see what's going to happen there.
Mm.
It's a good strategy to force someone to use the pass. Yes, I agree, but they can only
It's
do it
like
for 2 more
forcing
legs.
someone to use an idol in Survivor, isn't it?
Yeah, it's only 2 more legs though, so they're not going to be able to hold on to that bad boy for too long. Andre
Mm.
Lee saying, Chris and Michelle, if you were on the Amazing Race team, who would you be, King George, or would you be Pam in this scenario? I don't know Pam yet, and don't spoil it for me, please, at this stage, because I don't
Pam's
know what she's like.
lovely. Pam's lovely. I've met her in real life. She's lovely. Let me give you a little story, Andre, in that, you know how George was saying to get Pam, you're feeling sick, Pam, just vomit and get on with it. Andre, I probably said this in another episode, but I have done a race in Sydney before. It was really hot. I hadn't had a drink in forever. I went to get a Powerade from a shop, and it was really quick. Had to keep running. Had 2/3 of the drink. Felt sick. Vomited on a street corner in Sydney. And then my friend said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yes, just run." So we just kept running, and I literally just left half the drink over in a gutter. Yeah, so yeah, I'd probably be George, but the people, I don't know how Chris would be, but the girl that I have applied with, we'd be like George to each other. We'd be like, "Come on, just vomit and let's go."
I think
So,
I would be personally think I would be like Todd, in the sense that if my partner was struggling, I could like being the kind of person that I am. Like I've always played team sports my whole life, and I've also been a coach. I'm a manager at work,
oh, so
a
you'd be
people
all,
leader.
come on, it's
I'm
all
very
right.
motivated. I'll be like very motivational, and I'll also like be able. And again, this is me talking about myself. So it's weird when you talk about yourself, but I feel like I'd
Yeah,
be able to get the best out of people, even if they're like at the lowest. Like I
yeah,
could lift people. That's
yeah,
why I love Andrea and Milena because they're so positive. I love positive
yeah,
vibes. Positive vibes attract me. Like
yeah.
Lulu and Lala in the previous season, they had that positive vibe. So whenever somebody's like that, you can't help but smile and feel good. Like even you were saying, Michelle, when Milena was doing that first challenge, you were laughing at her for the things
Mm,
that she was saying and getting up to. Like I like people like if you surround yourself with good people, it lifts your mood, and then
yeah,
sometimes
yeah.
things won't be that way when you're on the race and things will go wrong. But I
Mm.
think that I would be able to lift someone. I think
Well, if
so.
you're able to
I
laugh
wouldn't be
in
George. I don't think I'd
place,
be George
that's
because I
good.
feel like George just is like cut through the chase, suck it up, move. He's kind of like Morgan in this situation towards Lena.
Yeah. I wouldn't be George strength in that respect, but I'd be more like George than Pam because I'm very competitive. I'd be like, come on, let's go. You're not that sick, Chris. You're fine. We've got a
Yeah.
pit stop to get to.
Yeah, yeah. Andre says here, who do you think will be the first team to get U-turned? It's at this stage, they're forced to do it, but it's a vote, right?
Yeah, they're all forced to do it. They all have to do it. So it's not, I don't think it's going to be like that U-turn from years ago where they all gathered in a room. Do you remember that? When
Yeah, it
they
was
all
very
gathered
strange
and they had to do that. But I think
because if you're first past the U-turn, surely you can't get U-turned, right? Like if Jocelyn
mm,
Victor's first, they
yes, you
should be safe.
can't.
So,
I think
so it'll have to be
everyone's going
one.
to be have to put up a card, but they won't know if that person's passed or not anyway.
Right. So it could be nullified, to use the nullified take,
exactly.
if they're ahead of you and you don't realize that they're ahead of you.
Yeah. And if
So
I
it's
was
actually
in
going
there,
to.
but
So
Jocelyn and Victor are doing so well. But they're such nice people. I probably wouldn't U-turn them. I'd probably U-turn someone was doing just as well as them.
For me, it'd be interesting if I was out there and I was racing. I would want to U-turn someone that I know is struggling, because that way I know my vote's counting towards someone. Unless you want to just throw your vote, because there's still a way for you to throw your vote. You could be like, I want to be the nice guy. Greg and John in third place. Let's vote Jocelyn and Victor. We know they're ahead of us. We just saw them run away. That way we don't have to make a decision.
Yeah.
That's probably the smartest move.
Like to U-turn the person in front so you don't get in trouble for anything.
Look at us being all strategic. Hopefully none of our competitors in the Amazing Race Australia for next season is listening, Michelle. No, look at these two gaming the system. Exactly. Jonathan says the sisters only have one express pass, right? None to give out. None to give out. So
no, it's not Canada, Jonathan. Yeah, I know.
Jonathan says, I think it will be like the Paul and Steve one, Michelle.
Oh, yeah, it could be. God, everyone hated them, didn't they? Jeez. Poor Steve. Steve was a nice guy. Well, actually, you know what? Paul is a nice guy, but he's just so competitive that his edit was so bad for him. I mean, you do say the things you say, but a lot of Paul's stuff is deep-seated in him being bullied when he was young and having to be the bigger man now and trying to put up this bravado that, he's trying to fight against what he went through when he was young. And I think Paul, for all his comments, I think Grace just had a go at him way too much. That's all.
Yeah. Jonathan says competitive plus antisocial equals no quick friends.
Oh, you see, I'm competitive and I'm social. So there you go. It's good.
I'm competitive. I'm super competitive. Don't get me wrong. I hate losing. Like, you don't want to play me in like a board game. Like it's.
Oh no, yeah.
I'm super competitive in that stuff. But I think that when you're in a team environment, you have to be able to move at the pace that the other person's moving at, and you need to be able to read when you need to push and when you need to pull. And I think that is what makes the best teams out there. And if you can't operate at the same frequency, you're only as good as the person who's struggling. So some people just don't get that. And I think that's going to be the difference between the teams who wins and become like legends and all stars of the game. Well, you could be a hot mess team and still become an all-star team, I guess. But it's definitely, if you want to win, that's how you're going to have to operate in any case.
Exactly.
Michelle, tell me, do you know what the schedule is for the weekend? When are you, Kahuna, Tom, Verity, and Kahuna? And yourself?
Is it Sunday or Monday? Is Kahuna listening? We moved it because it was Tuesday and it was just the day before the actual next episode. So I suggested us moving it earlier.
I think it was Sunday last time I spoke to him, but keep an eye on the channel. Kahuna probably in the next couple of hours or so will confirm with everybody and put a live up for the Amazing Race Australia. Episodes 1 and 2. That's right. 2 episodes came to us this week. 9 p.m. on Sundays, Kuna's saying. So 9 p.m. you've got it on. That's Melbourne, Sydney time in Australia.
Yes.
It would be around this time right now for those that are in the US if they do watch it. But that's going to be a great chat. I'm definitely going to have to catch up on both those episodes over the weekend so that at least when I watch it, I know what the hell's going on.
Well, exactly.
I can stay up to date with you. But I'm excited to see how the team does.
It's big episodes, so yeah, you got to watch them.
Hopefully, it doesn't get me that excited that I want to talk about it because I'm trying to do less podcasting at the moment. So I need you all to just enjoy that and do that one together. But plenty more content coming this weekend. We've got Survivor recap and review tomorrow morning my time, which will be in the evening for everybody over in the US. It should be, I think, 7 p.m. Friday evening for those in the US at Eastern Standard Time there. And we've also got the the challenge content that's going to hit us this weekend as well. Should be an hour earlier than usual because of daylight savings as well. So around 7 p.m. on the Saturday evening over there as well as the Wheel of Time. So another busy weekend for me when it comes to podcasting. Wheel of Time will be finishing this weekend. So that will be one less podcast to worry about moving forward for now. But I have a lot of fun. Obviously, I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't have fun with all of the shows that are going on at the moment. Kiwi, oh no, we just missed you. Well, plenty of content coming this weekend, Kiwi Skirt. I know I'll see you definitely in the challenge. maybe I'll see you in Survivor. It'd be great to have you in Survivor, but it is an early-ish start tomorrow. It's about 12 in the afternoon for you tomorrow that we're going to be doing that. But plenty of things coming. I have not watched the challenge either, Andre Lee. So we need to try to get together for a draft. I know, Lovable Nikki, it's been tough, and it's all my fault at this stage. I blame it on my new company and work and training and life in general. But hopefully at some point, it would have been good if the challenge didn't extend their ending to like 3 episodes, so they could just get it done in like 1 episode, so we can have a weekend where I've got like one less thing to talk about. But yeah, I agree with you. That needs to happen for the challenge 39. So much going on at the moment. But Michelle, is there any final thoughts that you have on this episode? Anything that we didn't talk about?
No, we talked about everything. I'm happy. I'm wondering where they go next. I don't think I saw the preview. Did you see the preview?
I didn't, and I'm avoiding the spoilers as well. So I've got no idea what's happening next. I don't mind to be spoiled 1 episode in advance, but I definitely don't want to know the whole route.
Yes.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they go. But for those that are still here in the live at this point, please consider subscribing if you enjoy this content. If you love Michelle on the channel, she is going to be back, like I said, this weekend to talk to Kahuna and the rest of the gang about the Amazing Race Australia. So make sure to check that out as well. Go check out, if you're on Facebook, Michelle's fan pages, the Amazing Race Fans Facebook group and the Amazing Race Fans Australia Facebook group. Did I get that right, Michelle?
It's Amazing Race Australia Fans and Races. We have races in both groups, but we did that because there was another Australian group, and I just wanted to delineate that ours was races as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. So go and support that if you want more content. Michelle's really active on both of those groups as well. Very active. I don't know how she does it. She's got that Andrea and Milena energy when it comes to social media. Oh, she's all over it.
It's like you and all the podcasts. It's me with a couple of podcasts and then all the groups. It's like, it's insane.
Why do we do this to ourselves, Michelle?
Because we love it.
We love it. That's why.
About it.
So Vietnam.
Vietnam. Okay.
That should be really good as well. But thanks to everybody for watching in the live, and those that are listening to this at a later stage. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you're watching this at a later stage, I will read all of them and respond to them at some stage. We really love seeing comments come in, and it does help with the algorithm to get our content out there and for more people to discover this channel. But for now, thank you for watching, and see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.